I'm 95 years old. I have outlived my enemies, my siblings, and my... There is a specific kind of silence that has nothing to do with the grave. It's the silence of a phone that stopped ringing 40 years ago. Look at me. Really look. I am the future you are currently sprinting toward with your eyes closed. From this vantage point, this ridge at the end of a century, I can see the wreckage of everything you think you're managing. You think you're building a life? You're actually conducting a slow-motion massacre. My name is... Today's story topic is the systematic execution of the only people who actually knew who I was. I had 12 close friends when I was 30, 12 people who knew my coffee order, my deepest shames, and the way I laughed when I was actually terrified. By the time I hit 70, that number was 0, not because a plane went down, not because a plague swept through. They didn't die. I just stopped calling, and you are doing the exact same thing right now. Before I tell you how I killed them, I want you to sit in the discomfort of these questions. Don't look away. When was the last time you heard your best friend's voice, not their text tone, not their curated Instagram caption, but the actual vibration of their vocal cords? Why are you protecting your busy Tuesday night schedule more fiercely than the people who would carry your casket? Do you actually believe next month is a real place on a map, or is it just the trash can where you throw the people you claim to love? How many more times do you think you can choose a Netflix algorithm over a human soul before the soul stops waiting? If you disappeared tomorrow, who would actually know which drawer you keep your secrets in, and why is that list getting shorter every year? December 14th, 1979, Chicago. The air outside was a biting frost that turned your breath into ghosts the moment it left your lungs. Inside our cramped apartment, the radiator hissed like a dying animal, and the kitchen smelled of damp wool and the burnt edges of a meatloaf I'd neglected. The phone rang. It was a heavy, avocado green rotary unit that lived on the wall by the fridge. I can still feel the cold, hard plastic of the receiver against my ear. It's Paul. He was the kind of man who hummed when he was nervous and always had a smear of charcoal on his thumb from his sketches. We'd been inseparable since university. He'd helped me move 3 times. I'd held his hand when his father passed. I'm around the corner, he said. His voice sounded thin, tired, rough week at the firm. I've got a 6-pack and that new record we talked about. Can I come up for an hour? I looked at the pile of laundry on the sofa. I looked at the ledger for my small business sprawling across the table like a threat. I felt that heavy, seductive weight in my chest, the exhaustion of the now. The immediate reward of silence seemed so much more valuable than the work of being a friend. Paul, I'm buried, I said. I didn't even hesitate. The lie felt smooth like a polished stone. I've got to get through these accounts. Let's do it next month, once things settle down. I promise, next month. He asked. There was a pause. I could hear the wind howling through the telephone lines. Sure. Month. I hung up. I felt a surge of relief. I had saved my evening. I had protected my time. I sat down at that table, picked up a $40 ledger, and began to work. I didn't know I had just started a countdown. I didn't know that by choosing the now of my own comfort, I was forfeiting the later of my own humanity. I told myself next month for 3 years. Every time the thought of Paul crossed my mind, I didn't feel guilt, I felt a sense of permanence. I assumed he was a fixed landmark in my geography. I assumed the bridge would always be there, even if I never crossed it. I was wrong. Friendships don't die in explosions. They decay in the dark. Science tells us that if you go 6 months without contact, the bond begins to liquefy. After 10 years of silence, 78% of those connections are unrecoverable. They aren't just paused. They are dead. I did the math once, decades too late. By saying next month to Paul for those 3 years, I didn't just miss a beer. I lost exactly 1,095 Thursday nights, 1,095 opportunities to be known. I fell straight into the waiting room trap. I believed that life was something that happened after I was organized. I thought I was in the waiting room for my real life to begin, so I kept pushing the people I loved into the hallway. I sat in that waiting room for 40 years. When I finally walked out, the hallway was empty. That was 1979. By 1982, my next month had become a permanent border. I was 33, vibrating with the self-importance of the busy. I had upgraded my office. The air there smelled of toner and expensive floor wax, a sterile scent that I mistook for the smell of success. I sat in a high-backed leather chair that creaked whenever I moved, feeling like I was finally winning a game I hadn't realized was rigged. I saw Paul once in 1984. It was a Tuesday. It was raining, that gray, oppressive Chicago drizzle that turns the sidewalks into slick black mirrors. I was rushing to a meeting, clutching a briefcase that felt heavier than it actually was. I saw him across Michigan Avenue. He was wearing a tan trench coat, his hair a little thinner, still carrying that oversized portfolio bag. I slowed down for a heartbeat. I could have shouted. I could have crossed the street and ruined my expensive silk blouse in the rain. I could have finally had that beer, but I felt a strange, cold resistance, the heavy anchor of the status quo. To speak to him now would be to admit I had been lying for 5 years. It was easier to keep walking. It was safer to remain a stranger. I chose the dry blouse. I chose the meeting. I chose the silence. By 1990, the massacre was complete. It wasn't just Paul. It was Sarah, who used to bake bread that made the whole hallway smell like a sanctuary. It was Mark, whose laugh sounded like gravel hitting a tin roof. One by one, I had pruned them. I did it with the precision of a surgeon and the heart of a bookkeeper. I told myself I was focusing. I told myself that once I reached the summit, once the bank account hit a certain number, once the house was paid off, I would go back and find them. I didn't realize that human connection has a half-life. I was operating on a delusion of permanence. I thought our friendship was a statue in a park, weathered but stationary. I didn't see that it was actually a garden that I was actively salting. Science has a cold name for what I was doing, a way the brain trickles away the future. To satisfy the now, I was trading a lifetime of belonging for the temporary hit of a cleared to-do list. Here is the calculation that still wakes me up at 3:00 a.m., the math of a ghost. If I had honored just half of those Thursday night invites, I would have had 547 evenings of shared history. Instead, I stayed in that office. I chose the ledger. I did the math on my deathbed and realized I lost exactly 1,095 Thursday nights of being known, 1,095 chances to be more than just a name on a payroll, or a ghost in a leather chair. When I finally reached out in 1998, the number I dialed was disconnected. I tried to find him online later, but the wall was too high. You think you can just reconnect later? You can't. After 10 years of silence, the statistics are a graveyard. 78% of those bonds are unrecoverable. They don't just fade, they ossify. The version of Paul that loved me was gone, and the version of me that deserved him had been buried under decades of important paperwork. I am 95 now. I have all the money I thought I needed back in 1979. My house is quiet. The air is still. I realized too late that you don't make time. You only burn it, and I burned my tribe to stay warm for a few nights in a cold office. The silence isn't a lack of noise. It's the weight of 1,095 nights I can never buy back. Stop the video. Seriously, take your hands off the mouse. Set the phone down on a flat surface. Look at your palms. Look at the skin, the lines, the warmth still pulsing under the surface. You think you have time because your hands still move. You think you're in control because you can click away from a 95-year-old woman's regret. You aren't. Every second you spend optimizing your life for a future that might never arrive, you are pouring the concrete for your own tomb. Two versions of you exist right now. There is the one watching this, thinking about their to-do list for tomorrow, and then there is the version of you at 95, the version I am currently inhabiting, standing on the other side of a glass wall, screaming at you until their throat is raw. That version of you doesn't care about your promotion. They don't care about the $40 ledger or the busy Tuesday. They are begging you to see that your important work is just a sophisticated way of hiding from the terrifying vulnerability of being loved. I spent 40 years winning. I had the titles, I had the accounts, but when I look back at my life, the wins look like gray ash. The only things that have color, the only things that feel real are the 1095 Thursday nights I threw away. I thought I was being disciplined. I was actually just being a coward. It is easy to work. It is hard to look a friend in the eye and say, I am lonely, come over. You are currently suffering from a delusion of permanence. You think the people in your life are furniture. They aren't. They are shadows that are lengthening as the sun sets, and the sun is setting faster than you can imagine. I am going to give you a framework to stop the massacre. Not because I want you to be happy. I don't care about your happiness. I care about your survival. I want you to avoid the hollow, echoing silence that is currently my only companion. Here are your directives. Do not think about them. Do them. 1. Call the most inconvenient person in your life right now. Pick the friend who lives too far away, who talks too much, or who reminds you of a version of yourself you're trying to forget. Call them, not a text, a voice call. Why it's hard? It interrupts your flow. It forces you to be present without an exit strategy. It feels like a waste of productive time. What it reveals that your busyness is a choice, not a condition. It shows you exactly how much effort you've been putting into building your own isolation. 2. Delete one productivity or management app from your phone. Take the tool you use to squeeze more value out of your day and kill it. Why it's hard? It feels like losing control. It triggers the fear that you'll fall behind, that you'll be less efficient. What it reveals that you have been treating your life like a factory instead of a story. It shows you that the time you were saving was never intended for people anyway. It was just more time for more work. 3. Show up at a door unannounced. Drive to a friend's house. Bring nothing. Have no agenda. Just knock. Why it's hard? It's socially unacceptable in 2026. It risks rejection. It's uncomfortable to stand there without a digital shield. What it reveals who actually wants to see you rather than who is just available. On a calendar, it breaks the digital decay and forces a physical reality that cannot be ignored. 4. Write a letter of apology to the friend you slow ghosted 3 years ago. Admit it wasn't the work. Admit you were just tired and selfish. Send it with no expectation of a reply. Why it's hard? It kills your ego. It forces you to look at the massacre you've already committed. What it reveals whether you actually value the person or if you just value the feeling of being a good person who is too busy. I am 95 years old. I am sitting in a room that smells like the end of the world. I would give every dollar I ever earned, every ledger I ever balanced, and every important meeting I ever attended just to have one of those 1,095 Thursday nights back. I would sit in a drafty apartment, drink cheap beer, and listen to Paul hum while he sketches. I would let the meatloaf burn. I would let the laundry pile up. But I can't. The door is locked. The numbers are disconnected. The massacre is over, and I am the only survivor. Look at your phone. Look at the names in your contacts. Half of them are already ghosts. You just haven't realized it yet? How many more Thursdays are you going to kill before you realize you're the one holding the knife? Don't answer me. You've wasted enough of my time. Go, call him now.